Hello everyone, welcome to Neurasapiens.
In today's tutorial, we'll look at the Python string method isidentifier. In Python, the isidentifier method returns true if the specified string is a valid identifier according to the language definition. Otherwise, it will return false. The syntax for the method here is a string object followed by dot isidentifier and then with opening and closing parentheses. For this string method, there are no parameters. And the quote that we'll be working with here is the rough underscore quote variable with the string before software can be reusable, it first has to be usable. This is a quote by Ralph Johnson. And we'll return here the string output that we're working with. So we'll start off with an identifier check. We'll create a variable here called check underscore quote. And we'll chain the variable with the method isidentifier. And then we'll print the output to check, is the quote a valid identifier? Followed by true or false. And then our result here. So we can see here based on the output here, false. The quote here is not a valid identifier, right? So false based on the string. And we can also check alphanumeric string. So we can create a variable here called alpha eng, where it has a string here which starts with the number 3 for the word engine. Start with the number 3, and then we can print is the alphanumeric string for engine. And identifier, true or false. And so this, based on the output here, it's false, right? So with the alphanumeric string where it starts with the number 3, this is not a valid identifier. String starts with a number, and this can also be extended to checking for strings with a leading white space. So leading white space, we'll create a variable here called lead underscore space, which has a leading white space followed by the character C, and then 2 symbols plus plus. So for the language C++, we can print the lead underscore space just to see what it looks like as an output. So we can see that there is a leading white space here at the beginning, and we can print is the string C++ with the leading white space and identifier true or false, and then return the result here. So lead underscore space dot is identifier. And so this here is false. This is not a valid identifier due to leading white space. And we can then switch this to a trailing white space. So we'll create a variable here called trail underscore space with the string HTML followed by a trailing white space. And we'll print the output. So print trail underscore space. And we can see here for HTML, there is a trailing white space here. So we can check, is this string a valid identifier? Is the string HTML with a trailing white space and identifier true or false? And so this here is false. So this is also not a valid identifier. False due to trailing white space. And so we can also check for empty strings. So with the empty string, we'll create a variable here called empty underscore str, which equals to a string with no values or no characters. So we'll print is an empty string and identifier true or false. And so we can see that based on the output for empty strings, this is also not a valid identifier. So return false. There needs to be a minimum of 1 character. So some examples of valid strings or valid identifiers are a single letter. So we'll create a letter here called letter_C variable, which equals to the string C. So letter_C is equal to the string C, and we can print is the letter C and identifier true or false. We can see here based on the output, it is true. So with a single letter, this is a valid identifier. And we can also check here for letter with a trailing number. So we'll create a variable here called letter_symbol, which equal to C followed by the numbers 5 and 3, so C53. And we can print is the string C53 and identifier true or false. So we'll change this to a letter number. We can see that with trailing numbers, where the string starts with a letter followed by trailing numbers, this is a valid identifier, so returns true. So valid identifier with trailing number. And so alphanumeric strings can also be valid identifiers as long as it doesn't have a leading number. So we can create an alphan.js variable, which has the string JavaScript, but the 5, the S for the script is replaced with the 5. So S is the number 5. And we'll print the output just to see the alphanumeric string that we're working with here. So this is a string, Java, where the S is now the number 5. And we'll print is the alphanumeric JavaScript string and identifier true or false. Alphan.js followed by the .isIdentifier method. And we can see based on the output here that this is true. So this is a valid identifier as a alphanumeric string. So this is how to use the isIdentifier method to check if a specified string object is a valid identifier in Python.
If you found this tutorial helpful, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe and click the notification bell for weekly videos. Please share the video with anyone who you think would benefit from the content and comment below what topics you would like to learn. If you would like to support this channel and have the means to do so, the best way will be via my Patreon link in the description below. Happy learning, and I'll see you in the next tutorial.